Now, Jeremiah hit us up, and he said that Oregon is about to cover this spread against Boise State easily. Spread's at 19.5. We talked about it during our Upset Watch segment. There is a reason why we did not have Oregon and Boise State on there. This is a massive, massive fool's gold upset alert. Notice I said fool's gold, meaning it's not really an upset alert. Maybe we phrased that poorly. I don't know. Boise State scored 56 last week. And the headline is, man, Ashton Genty had 260 some odd yards on the ground. He had 6 touchdowns. Like, he's a Heisman candidate. Okay, that's 100% true. Then you pair that with, well, Oregon, they only scored 24 against Idaho. Idaho's an FCS team. Like, are we really taking Oregon seriously? We sure about that? We sure Oregon's that team that we thought they were preseason? I see folks saying Oregon's fraudulent. I'm like, okay, that's your prerogative. I think it's also important to note now, as much as you want to talk about Boise State's offense and what they did effectively, because scoring over 50 points, I don't care who it's against. Like, that's impressive. However, Boise State also allowed 45 points to Georgia Southern. 322 pass yards allowed 4 yards a carry to over 100 yards. If Georgia Southern is scoring 45, not to knock Georgia Southern, but how many points is Oregon about to score? I think that's worth asking. Now, when it comes to Boise State offensively, because that's probably the talking point that you're riding with if you are calling this an upset. If you're calling Boise State to go get it done, you're saying, well, hey, Boise State, the way they ran the football last week, man, it was domination. You go back and watch that game, Boise State bullied Georgia Southern up front. Like, you watch the broadcast, you just watch the offensive line. They were pushing Georgia Southern like 3 to 4 yards off the ball. It was a teach tape kind of moment if you love offensive line play. However, in a situation like that, the matchup for Boise State favors them massively against Georgia Southern. Like, the offensive line that they have against Georgia Southern's defensive line, it is a matchup differential that favors the Broncos by a mile. You're not going to have a matchup favorite for you against Oregon. And that's not me being down on Boise State. Those are just the facts. Like, you went from playing, let's call it 3-star caliber players at Georgia Southern to now 4 or 5-star caliber players against Oregon. The line of scrimmage is going to be a very, very different caliber than Boise State played against last week. So I'm not telling you they couldn't have success on the ground, but I'd be wildly surprised if they were anything close to what they did last week. Also, the tackling, like Oregon, I promise you, they will be dialed in. They will not miss tackles. They will not be poor in space the way that I believe Georgia Southern was against Boise State. So that's all, like, the talking points, the stuff you talk about on paper. Hey, Oregon has better players. No duh. Like, that's not really a novel analysis there for you. Oregon fans, y'all have been good to us, man. A lot of y'all have subscribed to this channel and joined this college football sicko community. If you have not yet subscribed, would love to have y'all here. We appreciate y'all in advance. But the reason why I'm actually riding with Jeremiah here and why I would take Oregon to cover, I don't know if it'll be a best bet for us on against the Suits, but I'm tempted to. The reason why I like Oregon outside of the talent gap is, like, if you're Boise State, seeing Oregon struggle with Idaho in that box score is the last thing you want to see. Why? Because Dan Lanning, all week long now, has had the undivided attention of his football team. Why? Because he's got ammunition. I don't know this to be true, but just having played the sport and taking a wild guess at what I believe to be true about Dan Lanning and the way that he operates, I don't think those post-Idaho meetings were all that fun. I don't think sitting through film and seeing Idaho run a trick play on you and seeing guys undisciplined was all that enjoyable. Have to believe that Dan Lanning communicated as much in whatever fashion he does. Oregon's locked in for this one. Why do more talented teams lose games? Not focused, not taking it seriously. Maybe they don't have a great game plan in place. None of those things are going to be true about Oregon in this spot. Okay? So I think that Dillon Gabriel has a massive day. I think that the Oregon defensive line shows up in a big way. I think they play their brand of football, and I think you see Oregon's best football this upcoming game against Boise State. So 19.5, that's a big number. Again, I'm tempted to put it on our best bets, but overall, like, I think Oregon wins, and they leave zero doubt about what they're going to be in 2024. Don't buy the fool's gold now. Do not buy it looks real. There's all these talking points. Well, they struggle with FCS, this, that, and the other. Boise State's better than Idaho. True, 100% true. But I promise you this too, Oregon's a lot better than Georgia Southern. who hung 45 on them. No disrespect to the Broncos, man. It's just calling it how we see it. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.